Okay, come closer. Reina here. Tonight's story looks innocent for about 5 seconds. This one is called The Rosaline Papers. Before we start, hit subscribe and leave me a like. It takes a second and it tells me you want more nights like this. And if you want to help me keep the Story Lounge alive, you can support me on Patreon below. Seriously, it means a lot. Now listen closely. A CEO clearing her aunt's shop uncovers a hidden love and finds herself drawn to the woman protecting the secret. Watch the little details, do not trust the obvious answer, and try not to fall for the wrong woman. Ready? Good. Come with me. Eleanor walked into her late aunt's shop with a checklist and a closing date already circled in red pen. Dust, cobwebs, sentiment she budgeted 0 minutes for any of it. Appraisers by Thursday, movers by Friday. A signature before her board even noticed she'd left the country. Then she found Sarah standing in front of a back hallway, arms crossed, blocking it like she'd been rehearsing the pose for years. "Those rooms stay closed," Sarah said. "Your aunt asked me to keep them that way." "I own the estate now. You own boxes," Sarah said. "Not everything in them belongs to you." Eleanor reached past her anyway, fingers brushing a shelf. A ledger tipped. A photograph slid free and landed face up on the floor her aunt, 20-something, laughing, her cheek pressed against another woman's like it was the only warm thing in the room. Eleanor's schedule stopped mattering somewhere in her chest. Eleanor tried a different approach coffee, a compliment, an offer to keep Sarah on payroll through the transition. Sarah didn't take any of it, sorting boxes with the focus of someone guarding a border checkpoint. "I'm not the enemy," Eleanor said, reaching for a small tin box. "You don't have to be careful with me." She opened it too fast. The hinge gave, and a pressed flower inside came apart into dust between her fingers before she even registered what it was. Sarah went white, then furious. That was hers. 20 years, and you just... She stopped, jaw tight, eyes wet. "I promised to protect what's back here. I don't care what your lawyers think that's worth." "Protect it from who?" Eleanor asked. Sarah didn't answer. She cupped the flower's remains in her palm like they still meant something, and Eleanor felt her certainty about this whole errand slip, just slightly, out of her hands. Eleanor waited until midnight, when the floorboards had gone quiet and the light under Sarah's door upstairs had finally gone dark. The drawer beneath the register wasn't locked, just swollen shut with age. Inside, a bundle of letters tied in ribbon gone the color of weak tea, her aunt's handwriting slanting across every envelope. Eleanor read standing up, barely breathing. Decades of it longing, jokes, small domestic complaints addressed again and again to the same name. Rosaline, a name that had never once come up at a family dinner, never appeared on a headstone, never been spoken over her aunt's casket. A floorboard creaked. Sarah stood in the doorway, and hearing that name out loud in Eleanor's mouth made her face shut like a door. "Put those down," she said, voice unsteady. "You had no right to touch those. I need to understand. You don't get to understand her like this. Not by breaking in." Neither of them pretended things were fine the next morning. Eleanor set the letters on the counter. "Who was Rosalind to you?" Sarah's answer came slow, like something rehearsed but never once said out loud. "My grandmother." The words sat heavy between them. "I grew up hearing about a woman my family loved and lost to other people's shame. Your aunt promised this shop would go to both families someday. A way to make it right." She paused. She never did it. Eleanor felt the ground of her clean, uncomplicated inheritance tip sideways. "There's no paperwork for that. No claim. There's a promise," Sarah said. "Maybe it doesn't hold up in court. It still happened." Eleanor looked down at the letters, at the photograph still folded into her coat pocket, and understood that this had stopped being about appraisers and closing dates. It was a debt 2 generations had let sit unpaid. They worked the back room together after that, an uneasy truce built out of necessity more than trust. Boxes gave up old photographs, receipts, small unkindnesses nobody had bothered to file away. Near the bottom of a trunk, they found a deed drafted decades earlier, joining both families' claims to the shop, unsigned, 2 names waiting side by side for ink that had never come. She meant to, Sarah said, fingers hovering just above the page. She ran out of time. Eleanor looked up and realized how close Sarah had gotten without either of them noticing, her eyes bright with grief and something harder to name. Neither moved for a second too long. Eleanor's gaze dropped to Sarah's mouth before she caught herself, her pulse doing something no acquisition ever managed. Sarah pulled back first, color rising in her face, hands not quite steady. "This doesn't change anything," she said. Eleanor wasn't sure anymore if she meant the deed. A quick invitation before we continue. The dark room is where conversations with the AI women do not reset when the episode ends. You can return, be remembered, and grow closer over time. Now stay with me. The conference call crackled with sharp voices, all of them demanding sale documents within the week. "This delay is costing us," Harmon snapped, the board's oldest hawk. "Liquidate the estate, or we vote you out." Eleanor stood in the shop's back room while Sarah folded linens just beyond the doorway, close enough to hear every word. "The estate has complications," Eleanor said carefully. "A family claim. I'm resolving it. Resolve it faster." The line went dead. Sarah appeared in the doorway, arms crossed. "You didn't tell them about Rosaline," she said. "Not quite a question." "No," Eleanor admitted. "I didn't tell them anything true." Sarah studied her, something unreadable crossing her face. Gratitude, maybe. Or suspicion that gratitude wasn't safe yet. "Why protect me?" she asked. Eleanor didn't have an answer that fit inside a boardroom. She only knew that lying for Sarah felt less like risk and more like the first honest thing she'd done in years. They spread the unsigned deed across the counter, sunlight catching dust motes dancing between them. "If we split ownership evenly," Eleanor said, "the shop stays yours and mine, no board interference." Sarah's hand brushed hers as she reached for the pen, and neither pulled away. "Eleanor," Sarah started, voice low, and then Eleanor was leaning in and their lips met, soft and startled, both of them forgetting paperwork existed entirely. It lasted 3 seconds before Eleanor's eyes caught a clause near the margin, half hidden beneath a coffee ring. She pulled back, reading aloud. "Rosaline agrees to purchase full title effective." She stopped. Sarah snatched the page, scanning it, face draining pale. "She was going to sell it," Sarah whispered. "Not share it." "Sell it out from under her." "Sarah, I didn't know. Did you look at this before?" Sarah's eyes hardened, betrayal replacing softness. "Or did you already know exactly what you were kissing me over?" Eleanor's assistant, Priya, wouldn't meet her eyes across the office. "The board authorized emergency sale of the estate," Priya said. "Your signature's already on file." "I never signed anything," Eleanor said, cold dread rising fast. She drove to the shop too quickly, papers clutched in her fist. But Sarah was already standing there, holding an identical setter name forged in Eleanor's careful hand across the transfer. "You said you'd protect this place," Sarah said, voice flat with fury. "This is your signature, Eleanor. It's forged." "Priya must have convenient," Sarah cut in. "You get the sale, and you get to blame someone else." "Sarah, please look at me." "I looked at you plenty," Sarah said, stepping back toward the door Rosaline once painted blue. "I'm done looking." The bell above the door rang once as she walked out, and Eleanor stood alone among the boxes, the forged page trembling in her hand like an accusation she couldn't outrun. Eleanor called an emergency board meeting. Priya's confession recording playing through the speaker's voice memos, proving the forgery, the collusion, the rushed sale built on lies. Harmon's face reddened. "This changes nothing." "The sale proceeds. No, Eleanor said, standing. It doesn't. She lifted the finalized sale contract and tore it in half, then again, paper scattering like confetti across the table. Rosalie never intended this shop sold to strangers. My aunt never signed away what she loved. She placed the unsigned joint deed on the table instead. This is the truth. I'm resigning as CEO, effective now. Gasps rippled through the room, but Eleanor didn't wait for their reaction. She drove straight to Sarah's apartment above the shop, deed in hand, heart pounding harder than any merger had ever made it. She knocked, praying the door wouldn't stay closed the way Sarah's heart clearly had, praying truth, finally spoken aloud, might be enough to earn her back. Sarah opened the door slower than Eleanor expected, eyes red-rimmed but steady. "I heard what you did," she said. "Torn contracts make good gossip." "I meant every word," Eleanor said, holding out the deed. "This is yours." "Ours? If you still have me anywhere near it." Sarah studied her for a long moment, then stepped aside, letting her in past boxes finally unpacked, shelves finally settled. On the counter sat the photograph, smoothed and framed Rosaline and Eleanor's aunt, cheek to cheek, laughing at something lost time. Sarah picked up a pen. "Both our names," she said, signing first. "Hand steady now." Eleanor signed beside her, ink still wet as their fingers touched. Together they lifted the frame and hung it above the counter, exactly where it always should have stayed. "No more boardrooms," Eleanor murmured. "Just this." Sarah smiled, finally unguarded. "Just this." She echoed and kissed her properly this time, nothing left interrupting them.